to Ephemera Files by Tommy, and today I want to show you how to make some quick yo-yos using wired ribbon instead of fabric. These are no sew yo-yos, and they're really, really easy, really cute. You can use them in lots of different ways. First, I want to show you something I've been working on. I have been taking a few online lessons about making digitals, and this is what I've come up with so far. I'm still practicing, and really I would like to have your opinion on what you think. There's the first one, and then I tried changing the colors a little bit because I thought that was really pale and washed out. Of course, everything that I was using to make the digital is really vintage, pale, and washed out, so that could be part of it. And then this one, I think, is very close, and you can see that my printer ink wasn't quite right. It was starting to run out. You can see lines on it. But I think it's a slightly different shade from the second one. And then this is one where the ink was all out. And I wanted to show you that because as soon as that came out, I ran to the kitchen and ran it under water in the kitchen sink. And then I placed it, I have these plastic placemats that are a lace pattern, and I sandwiched it between those two placemats. And this will make a really good tearing collage paper. And that's just a little tip. If you've got something that doesn't print out correctly, as soon as you see that it didn't come out correctly, go run it under some water. You don't even have to have the lace placemats. It just did a little bit around the edges. And actually, I think I said that in a different order. I think this was the first one that came out. And then the one with the lines was the first one I used after putting the new ink in. So I think that's how come I had lines on it. I just thought that was funny, and now I didn't even lose the page because I can still use it. But definitely, if you have ideas or tips, tell me what you think about that one and about that one. I'm working on it, and right now going with those subtle tones that all kind of go together is a lot easier for me than trying to do a whole flower garden or scenery or anything like that. So I'll set that to the side. Now, for these yo-yos, I don't know if you have heard of yo-yo quilts before, but ladies used to make yo-yo quilts, and they would cut circles out about like this of fabric, and they would have a form. Some of them would have a form, and they would make a tiny little hem around the outside edge of that circle fabric, and then they would gather it all up. They would stitch it all together until they had a tiny little hole, and then they would smush it down, and they would have a yo-yo. And so they were called yo-yo quilts. I don't happen to have one here right now that I could show you, but you could look up yo-yo quilt online, and you could find really good photos of it, I'm sure. I thought that maybe this might be easier for some of us though. And all it takes is some wired ribbon. Whoops. And it doesn't even have to be expensive wired ribbon. I think I got this on clearance or on a really good sale at some point. And you can see, you'll find different kinds of wired ribbon. This one has a stitch that is actually holding the ribbon to the wire. It's not a hem, it's just a stitch that is, oh, what's that called? An overhand stitch, but it's a machine that does it. Some fabrics, some ribbons will actually have, I think this one does, yes. This one actually has a turned hem on it. This was a really old ribbon that I took apart from another thing. And I just saved the ribbon because I liked that color. It's not very often I find a red that I like, and I like that. So You do want to make sure, oh my goodness, that your ribbon has wired edges. The next thing that you'll want to do is measure your ribbon, because sometimes it may say it's 2.5 and it's actually more like 2 1/4 or something. This one is 2.5. And now I take 4 times the width for that 2.5, so that would be 10 inches in this case. You can do 3 times. You don't get quite as full of ribbon if you do, and if you get more, then you're going to end up with a bigger hole. And sometimes you just get a bigger hole anyway. That doesn't squish down as much as having just the thread holding the wire on when it's folded over hem. Okay, so we are going to cut this at 10, and I'm going to just slightly over 10 actually. I'm going to apologize now for a couple of things. Number one, I started to make this video earlier and then my neighbor started mowing, so I stopped. And then I started to make the video again, and then my husband started mowing, and so I stopped. And now my neighbor across the street has decided to start mowing. They are a little further away, so maybe you won't hear them. And the people who mow the berm behind our house for our neighborhood, they mowed early this morning, so they're done. And one of the things that will help you a lot in making this will be a skewer. I think this is actually what they call an orange stick, and they use it for fingernails. I had to try to redo my own fingernails, and they look horrible, but they don't look outgrown as bad. And I use that when I get my ends exposed. You need to expose your wire on each side of the end about 1/4 of an inch. You might need to get some pliers to get a hold of it. These are jewelry making pliers, but you don't need to have specialty pliers to do it. You just need enough of this wire out. You see the little bit of wire I've got out, so that you can twist those together. Otherwise, when you start gathering, it's going to pull the wire completely out of the edge, and then you'll just have ribbon, no wires. Okay, so that's just to hold it in place. I just twisted it around itself. Let's see if that's going to focus. Just a couple of times to hold it. And then make sure your pattern is on the outside. The next thing you're going to do is push the wire out of the opposite end. See, I pulled it out about that far. See it? And this is where the skewer comes in. And I twist it around the skewer. Now, you don't have to use the skewer for this part, but I found it much easier. Then I'm going to pull the wire out of this other side a little bit and twist it around the skewer as well. They do not have to be twisted together at this point. You do want to make sure that your printed side that you want on the outside is the part that is poofing out. I know that's not a technical term, but it's going to want to poof one way or the other. Make sure that it's poofing toward the out, okay? And then you're just going to gather. And gathering is easiest when you do it a little at a time. Don't just start up here and try to go, it's not going to work. You're not going to be happy. You're probably just going to yank your wires off of your skewer and possibly break the wire that's inside the ribbon. So just take little bits at a time. And sometimes I go down here, sometimes I go in the middle. When all of this is straight, I really need to go to the top to give myself more fabric down here to be pushing down. And you want to try to do it equally on both of those wires from the top, just because it will make it easier if you balance that. Now, when my wire starts to get a little bit too long between the skewer and the fabric for me to work with, I just kind of twist it around a little bit that gives me a little bit more leverage when I am pushing down the fabric on the wire. Now I haven't been doing this up in the air, so I'm having a little bit of a time. Okay, now once again, make sure you go down here to the bottom and you're pushing, and then come back up to the top when you need more of the ribbon to push down. Okay, and again, make sure you're trying to do it equally, not exactly equally, but don't make one side get all the attention all the time. You want to make sure and pay attention to both sides of that ribbon. And you want to get it just as tight as you can as you are gathering that. I'm going to take in a little bit more of my wire. This also keeps the fabric from sliding back up the wire very far, because it can only go that far. If you've got it way out here, it could go further, and then you'd have to go back and redo more work. Now, when you have all of it pushed down, and you're going to have to keep poking the fabric out so that it's poofing on the correct side, when you get all of that pushed down as far as you can get it to go, you will want to wrap your skewer the rest of the way down there so that it doesn't slide away. See how I've got that so it doesn't slide back up the wire? And you will want to find your other wire over here at the beginning end. I probably should have made that a little bit longer. And then using your skewer, twist those two ends together so that they will hold your two ends of your ribbon tight in place. When you've done that, you can slide your skewer out and do a little puffing and fluffing and adjusting. I like myself to tuck one end of my fabric ribbon, the open end, into the other open end, just because I think it gives it a little more finished look. You do not have to do that. Matter of fact, I could go in and do a tiny little hem on that and glue it together. But there you go, you've got a pretty simple yo-yo, and you didn't have to do any sewing. No sewing. And you don't have to leave this curled. You can pull it out if you need to, like these are. I have done it with different wired ribbons. Like I said, this was an older one that had a stitched hem on it. It didn't close as tightly as some of these others. Now, how would you use these? You could use these in your journals as, oh, I'm going to fall over. You could put them on a paper clip or on one of these type of clips as a bookmark, using this wire to wrap it around it and give it a secure hold. You can stack these. I think that this one started out a 3-inch wide, and that was hard to work with, but it was a 3-inch wide ribbon. And then this one was just a 2-inch wide, but I think that they look really good together. That color combination right there. And that would be good on the front of a journal. You could take this and put a button. I don't know if I have a button near, because I just went through and I cleaned. I'm still working on cleaning my studio, but I think I'm to the point where now I'm just getting nitpicky about things because I don't know what else to do with it. I still feel like there are things that are disorganized. But you could take a button and glue it on there. You could take a brad. I don't know if this brad is big enough. I do know that I have brads that are bigger. And put that in the center and just fasten it to a page. Just like that. You can do all kinds of things with these. You can make them into flowers if you wanted to take a brad, or if you wanted to take a, let's see, I had some flowers over here. You could take a die cut flower and just place it right in the middle. I think that this black one would look cute on that back as well. And then put your brad through, and then you would have a nice little flower. I just wanted to share that simple little way of making yo-yos, no sew yo-yos. So you could put it into your book of ideas to try. And I also wanted to mention that just this week, just yesterday, I passed 200 subscribers. I'm so stinking excited, considering that I thought I might get my family, not even all of them, and a few of my friends, and have maybe a dozen subscribers, which also is fine with me because I'm a teacher at heart and I just like to teach, whether it's a class of 12 or a class of 200. But I want to also acknowledge that my 1-year anniversary of making YouTube videos is coming up on the 27th. So I think I'm going to combine those two celebrations and have a giveaway. And I just want to let you know to watch for that video coming up. Let's see, the 27th, so that would be the 20th, and today is the 18th, so on Monday, April the 20th of 2020, which is like the 5,000th day of this year, it seems like, I will give you instructions on how to get in on that drawing and join me in celebrating. I appreciate every one of you that are watching, all of you who have commented, all of you who have shared with me, all of you who have become my friends. I appreciate all of you very much. And I just want to remind you, as always, be kind. Bye.